1997, the last big day out. It was the year Soundgarden headlined the bill and were reunited with former tour mates UMI. UK group The Prodigy backed up for their second big day out tour in a row, and compatriots Supergrass arrived for their first. It was the year the legendary Patti Smith brought her poetic punk rock to the festival. It was the year Fear Factory subbed in for Sepultura, and it was the year The Offspring got camera shy. And 97 was the year Jabba dropped his Dax.
Bring the pressure! Come play my game on Tesla! Take us dramatic!
Having lost the much-loved Sydney Showgrounds venue, organisers Ken West and Vivian Lees decided the big day out would take a well-earned break after the 97 show. The 92 to 97 series ended with a bang, with international artists including Soundgarden, The Offspring, The Prodigy, Fear Factory, Supergrass, Patti Smith, Lemonheads, and John Spencer Blues Explosion.
1997, I went there with Pinky, who was the singer of the band, before we had the band, and we went there and we poisoned ourselves, as a lot of people do, and I saw the most beautiful rock and roll experience of my life. We walked in and saw John Spencer and the Blues Explosion in the Hordern Pavilion. This is when it was still in the city, and we just got so freaked out. He was just ripping up the stage, and he had the theremin, it was squealing with noise, he was smashing microphones. He went through like 7 microphones, breaking them, and there's only like 150 people in the room. It holds 5,000. And we got scared and went out because we were kind of, as I said, poisoned. And then we went, why are we leaving? We went back and we stood there and we watched the history of rock and roll on fast forward. And I cried. I had tears rolling down my eyes, and it was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life.
I had my big moment of being really uncool. I think it was 97. It was when we were at the old showgrounds in Sydney and we had Patti Smith on the show. And, you know, to me, it was such a coup to get her on. It was her drummer, JD Doherty, and he and I had always kept in contact, just a lovely, lovely man. He knew what a big Patti Smith fan I was, and he'd actually said, you know, Sarah, come and meet Patti. I was like, oh, no. She was this icon that was untouchable. So I had this box to deliver to Patti's dressing room. And JD answered the door, and he was sort of like, oh, wow, you've come to meet Patti. And I was like, oh, no, I'm just dropping off the box. He drags me in, and Patti's sitting at the end of the room, and she's just so fucking cool. You know, what can you do? It's Patti Smith. You know, and, you know, JD brings me over to meet her, and, you know, I shake hands with her, and, you know, she just goes, yeah, how you going? I'm like I'm talking in tongues. I could not string a sentence together. And JD's looking at me going, what are you doing? And he actually starts to get embarrassed and starts shuffling me out of the room.
Going into dinner with Patti Smith was another one. We went to dinner with Patti Smith in about 98. That was pretty interesting. It was just good, you know, and great. It was surreal and great.
Seeing Patti Smith on the main stage was, you know, and just going into the crowd and hearing the crowd going, oh, who's the old dear on stage? Oh, apparently Courtney Love thinks she's gone. It's always sort of fairly amusing. Kids need education. But I loved Patti Smith. I thought she was amazing, and an amazing band. But, you know, it's not really her demographic. It's still, that's the beauty of it.
The uprising takes me in. The crimes I'm fighting break my skin.
Australian acts UMI, Beasts of Bourbon, The Super Jesus, Frenzal Rhomb and Powderfinger were all in force.
Sex? You look like you've just had sex. I mean, you're sweating a lot there.
Eyes are dilating.
Do you ever have sex before you go on?
Oh, no.
Straight after?
No.
Hard to play drums after
sex. Oh, okay. Not in front of you anyway, because I know what you're like.
Now, the last time we spoke, Powderfinger were actually, you know, preparing to embark on this national Big Day Out tour. You've done 3 gigs so far: Auckland, Gold Coast, Melbourne, Sydney today. Is it a thrill?
Oh yeah, very special. Very special. I think 97 was after Double Allergic had been out, and so we'd started to kind of get a bit of a following. So it was amazing. It was the first time we'd played to big crowds, and really, it was just awesome.
Be Suburban. It was one of their last big shows they did. I mean, they've reformed now, but this was incredible. And it was the great thing about it is all the big bands, the overseas bands, and all the big Australian bands were all side of the stage. And Tex was like a caged animal, just pacing around the stage. And he picked up his mic stand and threw it at the monitor operator, and hit him fair in the head, knocked him out clean. That was pretty impressive. Bit of a wanker act, but impressive on a rock and roll level.
There's a lot of nudity behind the scenes. I think Jabba did a bit of streaking. I think the guys from Magic Dirt have done a bit of streaking. I think Frenzal have done a bit of streaking.
I don't know if this is an appropriate moment to bring it up, but I would like to dare you, Jabba.
I'm always keen for a bit of a dare, depending on what it is, of course.
Well, I reckon that I would like to see A, your naked buttocks.
Well, I can arrange that for you here right now.
No, not now. But whilst we're singing the song, I'll give you a set list and everything so you can work out when we're playing it. Whilst we're singing the song, I couldn't find my pants today, I think it's probably better that way.
Yeah, that was a dare where they said we're going to do the song I Lost My Pants and we want you to come on stage and lose your pants. So I'd never been on stage at a big day out or any big stage for that matter. And because it was a dare, I guess I had to do it. So UMI were on before Fear Factory. So everyone wanted to see Fear Factory. They're throwing stuff at UMI. So we couldn't do the UMI interview. It was this, tense kind of situation. So I thought a moon might help things along. And Friends Are Wrong challenged us to go on stage, do a moon. I went on stage, dropped my pants, and I've never really lived that down.
Headlining the festival were Seattle grunge rockers Soundgarden, who first played the Big Day Out Festival in 1994 alongside the Ramones, Bjork and Smashing Pumpkins. Also on the 94 bill was Aussie trio UMI, who caught the attention of Soundgarden and subsequently toured with the group.
On the whole, that run was kind of weird because it was also kind of the end of the innocence of the Seattle scene. I remember Chris, the bass player with Soundgarden, they were really not getting on, and one stage, and I mean, Sahara might have even mentioned it, him saying he didn't want to drink alone. And so, you kind of got this really weird, such an amazing movement, that whole Seattle thing, and how really it's kind of ended, it's a tragedy.
What about Australians? Are there any Australians you're familiar with apart from perhaps UMI?
Well, sure, the Be Suburban, and back in the late 80s, there was a connection between Seattle and Australia with Go-Go Records and Sub Pop in Seattle. So a number of us would listen to bands like Celibate Rifles, the Seminole Rats, Cosmic Psychos. Of course, they're licensed on Sub Pop in Seattle. UMI, Be Suburban. Definitely. Australia. It seems like every other band in Australia is a great band, which is more than I can say for the US.
What does it feel like they're up there, with just 6 strings and a bit of wood, a couple of amps behind you?
Well, there's a degree of anxiety, I'm sure. It's a little bit. I think someone would be lying if they said that they weren't nervous by the experience, but in a way, it brings out the entertainer in you. Once again, we didn't get into this in order to be entertainers. We were songwriters and musicians, and I use that terminology loosely as well. So it's a bit nerve-wracking, and you have the amp wall behind you and the guitar, which I suppose is both your armor and your sword.
Soundgarden, there's the old school connection when they came out here for the Big Day Out the first time. They saw you guys, thought you were stoked, thought you were excellent, took you to the States and that kind of thing. Is it good seeing them again, playing with them again?
It's fine. I think we're a little sick of being asked about them, But no, they're nice, very, very good people and a good band. And I think a lot of people miss some of the subtleties of that band. And but oh well, most people don't get much, so that's fine. And yeah, it is good, to answer you honestly.
I was wondering if they might have noticed a change in your sound from when they first heard of you, kind of thing. And
the fact that they're trying to get us off all the shows, maybe they're not too pleased with it.
That might have been something to not bring up there.
How to scratch only a cottage.
We got a lot of tours through. I don't actually think. Oh, we played with Soundgarden before they. Yeah, we met sort of them after we'd done a tour together on another big day. I remember that.
And something pretty swell. And now every fire is gone out. Every heart wanted to kill. Let's call it a day. Every thought that once had sound will have to hide till no one's around. Cause there ain't no room in your city today. Connections that you just can't say.
One initially was that, people who wouldn't normally get the chance to see you got the chance to see you, and would then, possibly come and see you at your own club shows after that. So yeah, I'm sure it had a tremendous, it was a tremendous boost to the band's popularity. Playing up at the Brisbane one too, we found that we never really got crowds until we played a big day out in Queensland, and then after that, we've been very successful up there over the past 10 years. It's had a really big effect. So I think I should start, scrubbing their floors or something.
Still to come on Bdo X 1997, the organisers get arrested. Although it was slated to be the last big day out, the 1997 event pulled over 200,000 punters, 70,000 more than the previous year. While the fans enjoyed the music, backstage things weren't running quite as smoothly.
97 getting arrested was very exciting. At the end of the show, that was very hilarious. But then, of course, I get arrested every now and again at the show, so that's fine. Because, who's in charge? Me. All right. Well, you've got a breach of. Yeah. All right. Whatever. Give me the ticket. But it's kind of just part of the deal. The 97 thing was quite surreal. For a start, it was almost twice as big as it had ever been. The bands on it with Soundgarden and Prodigy and Offspring as the top three was pretty over the top at the time. Again, that was a part of the weird thing about the bust in the raid. It was a raid in Perth at the time. Was the last show, and I think 3 hours. 3 hours, and then there's police everywhere. We were really in a hairy position on that because the police had no idea about the consequences of shutting. I mean, they wanted to strip search Soundgarden before going on stage. We're going, if you do that, they're not going to play. If they don't play, there's 35,000 people are going to riot. And I kind of get this thing about, well, that's not my problem. I'm going, it's going to be your problem. Now, eventually they went, all right, well, we won't. I mean, they're standing at the bottom of the stage about, I'm going to go, might have to strip search. I go, what? Because we'd already been all strip searched. I mean, it was humbling.
As co-organiser, producer and promoter of the festival, Ken West not only has to deal with the police, but with the media as well.
Talking to Ken West when we ambushed him in the field, in the middle of the paddock, early days, we wanted to talk to Ken, get a bit of a different angle about the big day out, and some girls are hovering around, the early days with the camera, and they're squirting him with a water pistol. He doesn't want to be singled out, he doesn't want to take the glory, he likes to be behind the scenes. Vivian even more so, but particularly Ken, he puts the gig on, the bands get up, they do the talking, Ken just, he just goes around and enjoys the music. Good on you, Ken. What have been some highlights and lowlights of the big day out for you?
The lowlight's doing interviews in public places.
I did have one argument in Jabber, and I think it's probably still in footage somewhere. He made me bloody do an interview on the Oval. And I said, I don't do interviews like this in the Oval. And going, we'll get the main stage. And of course, 2 seconds into the interview, somebody hit me with a bottle of water. I went, this is why, because they just go, here's an idiot in the Oval doing an interview, let's chuck a beer on him or something. And it's like, can we just kind of do that? So, I've really liked all the team through that. I think they're sincerely doing it because they love music.
Highlights are making it work, and one of the biggest highlights was at 3 o'clock this morning, sitting here, because it's the magical twilight zone when there's only about 10 people left here, apart from some security guards, and it's as pristine as it's ever going to be. And then 4 hours later, you're going to totally f*** it up.
As 1997 was anticipated as being the last ever big day out, Channel V was of course there to record this momentous moment in rock history.
I remember when we did the year that Offspring played, they wouldn't let us interview them. So there was that kind of thing that, the only camera crews people were used to seeing was like news crews. So when people warmed to the idea, the first couple of years were quite tough. So it was fun backstage interviewing bands. But when we had to go out, it's like 1 in every 1,000 people would go, oh yeah, Galaxy, yeah, we got paid TV. So a huge difference, the early days compared to later when we do the live broadcasts and, there's signage everywhere and everyone knows Channel V.
Here in the main arena, Offspring are on stage, and as you can see, they're, going down pretty well with the fans, that kind of thing, but Offspring is so punk and so rich that they wouldn't speak to us or let us film them. So you just have to, get a bit of a vague idea from this mic. There they are, yeah, blah, 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 blah. And there they are on stage being loved by the masses.
The punk ethos. I remember doing Livid a few years ago, and Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys was performing, and he didn't want to be interviewed because it was associated with Rupert Murdoch. So he's like, no, if it's on Fox, I'm not doing it. So I think it was an ethics thing. Offspring were just like, we don't want to do a TV interview. I think the fact that they've sold like 16 million records as well, if you don't have to do press, why do it?
But it wasn't only the Offspring who denied us permission to film them. Although they'd agreed to an interview and also allowed us to film their set in '96, the Prodigy did not agree to V recording their live show.
Does it feel good being the only band that's really just, one guy with 6 keyboards and 3 other guys running around? Oh, you do have the guitarist and stuff, but it's a very different lineup to what most of the people out there are used to seeing.
Even if people don't like it, they can at least break the kind of, not the monotony, because obviously every band's different, but like break the same drummer, guitarist and vocalist. They can break that even if they're not into it, just for a little while, give people a little breather or something, I don't know. But most people seem to be into it, so this kind of works for us.
I sort of said to Liam, you do the music and you got 3 other guys running around.
As in,
like headless chicken?
No, I mean running around going, I did say running around going, ah!
All right.
Should have elaborated on going, ah!
Yeah,
running around singing, ah, 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 to the whole crowd and that kind of thing.
When bands like the Prodigy are playing between, whoever, really heavy rock bands, and it works, and it's just amazing, and they absolutely get the crowd full tilt. And obviously the Prodigy came back yet again for the 3rd time and headlined it, which proves they hit the main stage.
And as always, V was there to ask all the important questions about the day.
Now fashion, what kind of fashion is essential at the big day out to survive the day?
Everything that doesn't go together.
Throwaway stuff.
Combat gear, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, let's make sure that I have all the black lined up together,
Black underpants?
No, we just like the black shirt look. It's simple, it's easy.
Comfortable clothes, comfortable shoes, thick socks, tight shoes, so you don't lose them in the mosh pit.
Actually, I think I wore this last night. Yeah, I did wear this last night.
Can you just pan on this shirt there? I suppose that was one collar in, one collar out. Maybe that's a style, I don't know.
I'm just scared shitless of getting myself beaten up for wearing a dress.
I think Mick looks like he's from Australia. I mean, this is what people wear around here, jeans. And are you Australian?
No, my brother's here. He lives in Melbourne, and he gave me these jeans so I'd fit in and wouldn't feel out of place here. So
I'm so intuitive. Have you noticed anyone on the tour with particularly good or bad fashion?
Yeah.
Prodigy have got good fashion.
Prodigy are very stylish chaps, but Baz, who's tour manager of UMI, he has some special gear.
Yeah.
He's always wearing some sexy stuff.
Do you ever think about what you're going to wear at the big day out for your show in the morning?
We wear things like we wear a uniform because the kids, man, they want to rock, they just don't know how. So it's our duty to show them the way. And if that sounds egotistical, well, you're damn right.
Next on Bdo X 1997, we find out what it's really like to meet your musical hero, and the lily pad goes out in style.
goes on backstage if someone's trying to steal my part?
I wouldn't know, but I'd like to find out.
Probably a lot of alcohol, a few drugs.
Lots of drug taking, I think.
Drugs. It's like heaven, you know, drugs, women.
This is so nice to come, you know, backstage. I mean, you've got all the luxuries.
Not a lot of people can afford foil.
I mean, look. You got everything you could possibly want in here, so it's not surprising everyone wants to get back in here and sprawl out on the plush carpet, and you know what I mean.
It's amazing what, you know, the whole kind of the misconceptions they have of backstage. Oh, there's bowls of drugs, and they're all got their shovels out and stuff. But as you can see, it's a bit of lino, a few chairs, a bit of ice. No drugs, nothing. Did you ever want to go backstage when you were a youngster? Have you ever had people jump the fence to, you know, come and touch Powderfinger?
No, not to touch us. I suppose I probably wanted to when I was a youngster, but I've got too much respect.
You wanted to touch yourself?
Yeah, I often wanted to touch myself when I was a youngster, but of course I never did. I had a Catholic upbringing, so I would have been struck down by the Lord.
You enjoy meeting people, and, you know, just like anybody that you meet, there's good people, there's bad, there's boring, there's pricks. It can start off quite stiffly. You know, everyone arrives into Auckland, they're all jet lagged and over it, and, you know, not talking to each other. By the time you get to Melbourne, all the bands are f***ing each other. We've always tried to maintain a level of camaraderie. You know, most of the international bands end up calling it the big day off, you know, because they don't have to work too hard. Everything's pretty much laid out for them. They have to go to work, you know, for an hour. And, you know, on stage and, you know, impress the adoring masses. It's not too hard. They have fun.
I think sometimes that people's images of musicians is different from the reality, but no, I like everyone. I think that wankers are great, you know, because it's all about showbiz. If you're a bit of a wanker, you're playing the game, you know, you're giving us something to talk about. I think the worst thing you can be if you're a musician is boring. Don't be boring. It's really boring.
It's always such a good buzz coming here, so then, like, if this is the last big day out, there should be something else happening, so we'll be back anyway.
I'm actually starting my own festival, so guys, you were actually the first act I was going to ring. It's kind of, you know, budget rates, and then I'm asking people to pay for free, or play for free. So, you know, if you're interested, I'll give you my card, that kind of thing.
As long as you pay for the flight, then we'll come over and we'll do it.
I'll pay for the flight? All right. Yeah, it'd be the best.
And we fit like another 5 gigs either side, you know, which are good work, you know.
Okay. Well,
Where are you holding it then?
Well, my mum's got this huge backyard and they've just drained the pool, so I thought that's where the skate ramp would be, and up on the deck we'd have the bands and stuff, and in the bathroom there's a bit of a, you know, we could have the boiler room and stuff. So we'll go and do some renovations, and when you come back, I'll take you out to my mum's place. The Prodigy, thanks for spending time with us.
Been there, we've stayed there.
We've already been there.
The 1997 Big Day Out tour wrapped up in Perth on the 2nd of February and signalled the end of an era in Australian music.
The standards were so high and I was always so overambitious with it that I wasn't prepared to lower it, but it was just killing me. And we'd had such a small team, and I was killing them too. And I also had this, part of it, the catalyst was really that the venue was gone in Sydney, and where was I going to put 35,000, 40,000 people when Sydney was going Olympics crazy? Anybody who thinks they're slightly too successful, you want to chop them down. So I thought, well, it can't go on for much longer because, you know, people are going to rebel. They're going to say, yeah, I used to like the Big Day, but I don't like it anymore. So I thought, well, I'll just, again, I don't want to see the baby being ruined, so I'll ruin it myself.
Although the Big Day Out team were exhausted, the Lily Pads ambience crew made sure the last Big Day Out would be one to remember.
And truly, this is the uniquest stage at the Big Day Out because it's different in every city completely, isn't it?
Yeah, we just rely on the local Looney Tunes to keep things going for us. Every city it's different. No one knows what's going on next.
The people know the lily pad stage at the Big Day Out. What they don't realise is the lily pad, it doesn't just stop when the show stops. Those guys are on the tour for the whole tour, day, night, at the hotel, on the plane, at the airport. They do that stuff the whole way along. They're employed as vibe coordinators.
In 1997, I went on the road with the lily pad, and that was a very educational time in my life because there's no boundaries with those guys. it's legendary, like this flight from Adelaide to Perth is known as the rock flight because there's very few flights between Adelaide and Perth. Anyway, so the whole big day out takes up this one plane, and it's just like a party on the plane. But we arrived and there was no seat for me, but I was sort of in the bubble of the lily pad. I was now their little, she can't not, she has to come. And so they kind of like, in their own way, swindled me onto the plane, and I sat in the jump seat behind the pilot. That one thought it was fantastic. So he decided to come up and sit with me. So there was two of us squished in the jump seat, watching the plane take off, and we're up there in the sky, and that fun started showing them all these photos and saying, so he's a photographer and stuff. And somehow it all shook down. I ended up with my top off in the jump seat with the captain's hat on and his speaker.
In 1997, the whole tour was basically the people in the Big Day Out, Ken and Vivian, had decided that we were pretty much over it. It was because it's such a monumental task to mount this show. And 1997 was going to be it. 6 and Out was the year. And so we just thought, okay, this is it. This has been so much fun. We are not going to stop playing music until they come round and disconnect the power. And it didn't matter to me if we got arrested or jailed or locked up or what happened. So that year, we just went absolutely nuts, doing all sorts of illegal things on stage and playing until, well past our welcome. And in Sydney, we used to be at the base where everyone came out of the showgrounds. And I remember we had the chief of police, the site manager, and the showgrounds boss all there. And basically we're still playing music, probably more than likely we're all half naked. And that was it, they basically disconnected the power and everything went dark, and that was the end of us. But that was the great thing, we just played and played and played until as if there was no tomorrow, because that was it.
Next time on Bdo XV, after a 1-year sabbatical, the Big Day Out returns in 1999 with the lineup of Giant Egos, Marilyn, Korn and Hole.